What is going on, everybody? Thanks for checking out my newest video. I know it's been a minute since I've put one out, but I thought I would take the time and show you guys how I modified my Sideshow Collectibles, the child, to have articulated limbs so I can pose him the way I want. His arms and his head. I started by removing all the screws from his main body so I could take the head out, and this is a little bit challenging just because there's some glue where the two halves connected and down by the legs. What I did next was measure the plastic from the top hole where his head went down to the silicone arms because I wanted to preserve all of the silicone arm and the sculpt of the hand. I had to widen the top hole a little bit just because I was going to be adding great stuff and I wanted to have room for maneuverability of his head. I made my marks with a Sharpie and I just used my Dremel where I wanted the arms cut out because that was the point where I was going to be adding the camera tripod legs that have maneuverability. This wasn't too hard, but it was pretty thick plastic, so it took a little bit of trimming and kind of sanding down just in spots where it was left a little bit rough. And once I had the arms off, then I started working on the top portion. And I probably cut away about a 1/4 inch just so I had room for his chin to have some clearance if I wanted to point his head downward, and just have a little bit more room where I was going to be adding that tripod leg. And cleaned it up a little bit, made sure it was nice and smooth just so it was easy to work around. And once I had the body all cleaned up, I started working on the arms. I cut away excess plastic and made sure I had a nice smooth surface. I wanted a little bit of the hard plastic on the arm just so I could put that tripod leg in there and add some great stuff in this portion too, just to make sure it was real secure. And it turned out pretty well. I gathered all the pieces and broke away the tripod legs. Just kind of got an idea of where I wanted them to fit and what length I wanted them to be at. Again, I measured that beforehand just so I knew where the hands were so they would be the same length with the new tripod legs in there. So this is great stuff. You can just buy this anywhere at your local Home Depot or Lowe's or hardware store. It's just like an insulation foam and it expands. You don't want to get gray stuff on your hands because it's just a mess. So what I did was lay down some parchment paper and Probably a good idea to wear gloves, but I wasn't really coming into contact with the great stuff too much, so. Here I'm gluing in the ends of the tripod legs into the arms, just so they won't move when I add the great stuff. I just used super glue and they stayed pretty well. It adhered pretty quickly. And there's already some insulation foam inside of the head just to keep its structure, so I had to pick away just a little bit of it so I could put a tripod leg in there. I added some masking tape around the tripod leg just for extra stability in case the insulation foam expanded too much. I didn't want it moving the tripod legs at all or break away the super glue. I added great stuff to one side and waited a little bit for it to expand and dry. And as you saw in that shot, I had cut away some of the insulation that was in the head. And I was able to glue that tripod stand into the head portion. I added it in, let it dry, and again added great stuff around that tripod leg. And I came up a little bit on the tripod leg just so it would hold it a little better and not move it around as you articulate it. Once the great stuff had dried, then I began to kind of map out where I wanted the arms. Once again, I measured from that original spot from the top portion. Measured down to the silicone part of the hand, just so I had the perfect length as it originally did, so it would show past the tunic that Sideshow provides. And once again, adding more great stuff to the main body, just so it would fill out, and then I could kind of carve away a little spot for the tripod legs to be inserted. I filled the main body up pretty much all the way. And once it had dried and expanded all the way, then I was able to cut away the excess and carve those holes for the tripod legs to be inserted. And once I had done that, I added more great stuff around each spot that went into the main body. This provided quite a bit of stability for each of the tripod legs to move and not break away from the great stuff. I placed each arm where I wanted it and let it dry. And this was the result. That extra bead of great stuff around the tripod legs really helped keep it in place for moving the limbs. pretty good range of motion, as opposed to the static display that Sideshow had chosen to go with. And that's where I carved another hole for the tripod leg from the head to go into the neck. As you can see there, it fit pretty well. And I just had to add another bead of great stuff. I placed it in and positioned it to where I wanted it to be and let it dry. Once that was dry, everything looked good, so I decided to put him back together. Added the screws back in and mounted him on his base. I made sure everything looked great and how I wanted it, and put his tunic back on. It was a little bit easier to get his tunic on with the ability to move his arms. And of course the tunic hides the tripod legs. And now he's not just a boring static Baby Yoda. He can move his head, pop the ball out of his hand, move his hands. Hopefully this inspires some of you to do this to your own, or go out and grab one of your own and modify it the way you want it. And of course, I didn't do the legs on this just because I was keeping him on the base, but this can be done to the legs also, if you want them seated or off the base. Now, I'm sure you've been waiting for the glamour shots, so please enjoy. I have him displayed next to my Mandalorian static display. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Hit that like and subscribe button for more videos and projects that are coming down the line.